Hey there, my name's Curtis Lucas and you're watching Empire Building. I just wanted to do a quick update on what's going on with mining stocks right now, because now that Bitcoin's broken through $1 trillion market cap once again, things could get very interesting. So I gotta say, it was really nice to see this waking up this morning, Bitcoin just bursting through that $1 trillion market cap once again. We haven't seen these levels since before the drop, the one we're all familiar with. So this is kind of the state of things right now with Bitcoin. Since we've fallen from that all-time high just below $65,000, this line here represents at least the current $1 trillion market cap. Obviously that number or that line would continue to move as more Bitcoin gets minted, but not that much. This was the line that, in my opinion, I didn't think we would have ever broken through once we got through it the first time, but better luck the second time. So the question is, for me, does Bitcoin maintain this level? I'd like to think that it probably will, but that's the thing we're going to have to keep an eye on here. With the last run-up that we had just about a month ago, not only was it the golden ratio that I'd been watching, but also the $1 trillion market cap, which again is this line. We stopped just short of it the last time we came up here, but this morning we blew right through it without even slowing down. At first, I thought that perhaps there may have been a significant number of short liquidations, but we can see so far the volume on the daily isn't actually quite that high yet. So I looked a little deeper into this, and we can see here there's actually not that significant amount of short liquidations that have actually taken place. In total, only about $300 million worth. Barely enough to move the needle. But really, that's a good sign. It means that these shorts are still hanging on. So we'll see where this leads. But basically, all I'm seeing in here is that we've got pretty healthy growth. Not a whole lot of exposure to those heavily leveraged long positions, but also not that much in the way of overly shorted positions. The Bitcoin long to short ratio on futures is about equal. But the bottom line here is, not only have we broken above the $1 trillion market cap threshold yet again, we've also broken the downtrend line, which is a very bullish signal. At this point, there's not a whole lot of resistance between us currently and new all-time highs, or at least retesting it. That's not to say the coast is clear, but that's about as good a signal as we're going to get, in my opinion. So as far as the mining stocks are concerned, they're all over the place. We've got Bit Digital is up over 10% currently. It's been surging. This is clearly because they announced that they've had an injection of capital. They were running quite low there. So a pretty large short interest in this company. So those are definitely getting squeezed out there. Bitfarm has been in the midst of a capital raise for quite some time. I'm really liking this company where it is right now. It's down over 23% from the date, the level it reached at the time they announced that capital raise through selling shares at the market. It's been almost 2 months since they announced that raise. It's still not clear whether or not they managed to complete that capital raise, but at a market capitalization of just under $850 million, this is still below $1 billion market cap for a company with currently a 1.6 exahash of mining capacity installed, and soon to have $500 million more on their balance sheet, perhaps already completed as we speak. We'll find out soon enough, we hope. Me personally, I look to Hut 8 to indicate really what we may see come soon enough. Hut 8 completed their capital raises back down around this area and has seen their stock nearly triple since then, right back near all-time highs yet again. Obviously, we know this is Mr. Wonderful's favorite stock, and one I'm quite fond of myself as well. Riot is another one that's been getting beat down. This one is extremely attractive at these prices. Also been undergoing their own capital raise by selling at the market. It's painful to hold these stocks during these periods of time, but if you can get in near when they complete those capital raises, it doesn't get any better. Add to that Bitcoin is now potentially entering this next cycle, this next hard push up, and these things can move extremely fast. The problem is you're never going to know exactly when that time has come. But certainly cost averaging during a time like this is a pretty strong strategy. And of course, obviously, all this hinges on the continuation of Bitcoin's current price action. But again, call me a fool, I don't necessarily see that there's a whole lot more holding this price back. And of course, Mara, who just announced their update, their production update just a couple of days ago. As we expected, the production did drop from previous months, but also, yes, it is true that the hash rate or the difficulty on the network has gone up considerably. I still have this channel sitting here from months ago that, yeah, obviously that didn't hold. So we can go ahead and just get rid of that now. To be honest, yeah, investing in these has been a learning experience, certainly for myself. Being a part of this entire rise up here, I thought there's no way we don't continue. This has been a real learning experience for myself. Sometimes when you're staring at this stuff every day, all day, it can be really hard to see the forest through the trees. And as you can see, like, who is going to predict this is exactly what it would have played out? I mean, it turns out buying and holding, you would have performed fairly well. Well, that is, unless you happen to buy around these levels that we are currently at. It would have been a rather frustrating experience. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of people did just that. Unfortunately, I think most of those people are gone now. And by the time they realize that they would have been just fine had they just held on, they'll unfortunately be buying yet again at prices higher certainly from when they sold and also from when they originally purchased. The fact of the matter is, it's not an easy thing to do. Even for myself, it's very difficult to have that kind of discipline. And really the only way to maintain that is to simply not look at it. But that's easier said than done. And also it makes matters even worse when you consider how these stocks tend to move differently from one another. When one stock can be up 18% on the same day that another stock could be down 5%, it's enough to drive anybody crazy, let's face it. Bitcoin itself, by comparison, is a whole lot less volatile and a lot easier to understand. I had done a video not long ago around this point here, predicting that the golden ratio would probably be a point where we would start to see some retracement. After that video, we had dropped slightly, but then completely recovered. And during that time, even though we didn't go that much higher in Bitcoin, in stocks like Mara, they surged, going from nearly $34 all the way up to $46, I believe. Looks like it was, yeah, almost $45. So the point is, you could be right on predicting and anticipating what Bitcoin might do, but forget about it when trying to predict what these stocks are going to do. Look no further than today, and it becomes painfully obvious. Now, having said that, as always, diversification can actually allow you to take advantage of these sort of, call them arbitrage events. But even then, very difficult to predict. But certainly buying and holding these over a longer period of time, they do tend to play catch up and more closely reflect what their value should be with respect to Bitcoin's current price. They are definitely still a proxy, and that's why institutions use them. It's a whole lot easier to buy and hold these companies than it is for them to buy and hold Bitcoin itself. So that remains one of the primary theses behind investing in these companies. That, and I do believe that the narrative or my original thesis that the price can rise much faster than the hash rate can. And that's where we've gotten a blessing. The difficulty currently is almost exactly where we were this time last year, right about here. So we've basically hit the reset button, and these companies have been able to multiply their size and their hash rate considerably during that time. Yes, there's been delays, but that's across the board, but they've grown substantially. They're producing a whole lot more Bitcoin than they were this time last year, and at the same difficulty rate. And one thing you'll notice, like this drop that occurred here in November of that year, this is actually common in every single year, basically. If you go back through Bitcoin's history, at least these past 3 years, in the month of November, there's always a drop in hash rate, which used to be the result of miners in China actually were customarily had to shut down because that's when the rainy season ends and a lot of that hydroelectric power that gets used gets shut down. Now, there are some theories that there's still plenty of miners operating in China. So we may yet again see another decrease because it's possible that some of those, especially those that are running on hydroelectric, might still be there and also will henceforth be forced to shut down because of that drop in water levels. I wouldn't necessarily count on that narrative repeating itself this year, but it'd be interesting to see if that trend resumes. But mainly right now, me personally, the things that I'm looking at as far as opportunities are definitely paying close attention to the companies that have announced capital raises, especially when they're selling into the market. Those definitely provide much better value. And obviously, as always, we need to pay close attention to what Bitcoin does over the next days and weeks. There's a whole lot of speculation going on right now that an ETF in Bitcoin cannot be far behind. We're talking potentially even this month, but in my opinion, a very high probability by the end of the year. There's very little reason for them not to do it now. All the arguments and reasons of consumer protection and all this stuff that they used to throw back at it, it just doesn't hold water anymore. And with a Bitcoin ETF being approved, an Ethereum ETF will not be far behind. So despite the fact that these stocks remain to be as unpredictable as ever, I hope you're all staying safe out there, making the best decisions that you possibly can, and at least enjoying yourselves. For all those that have been watching my videos, especially throughout the darker days that we've been going through these past 6 months, as always, like the video. I really appreciate the support, especially those on Patreon that have continued to support me and this channel. As we go through this growing phase, this learning phase, we're all going through it together. That's all for this one. Now let's get back to empire building.